it is not true that you don't owe anyone anything. You owe some people something. And most of all, you owe it to yourself to owe others something, okay? Because if you're not practicing kindness towards others, you are missing out on the full experience of your humanity. Look at all the people who are proud of their unkind behavior, who are proud of their lack of empathy, who are proud that they are so superior because they lack all these things that make people weak, okay? They're in crisis, okay? Just because kindness has been feminized and delegated to women, it's not revolutionary to be unkind. That's called giving up. Hey bestie, welcome to the Spoiled Girly Support Group podcast where we talk about how to get that bag while also securing your own bag. I'm your host Elle, and let's get into it. On today's episode, we are talking about the I don't owe anyone mentality, how we got here, the history, the controversy, and how this mindset is not the full truth because as it turns out, yes, we do owe others something, not everything, but something. Now we have a lot to cover, but before we get into it, I need you to hit the like, subscribe, and the notification bell so you never miss a Spoiled Girly episode. With that being said, let's get into it. So there's some tea between these two TikTokers that inspired today's video because basically in the video we're gonna watch, the creator is defending her own actions of going on a date with a guy who just got out of a relationship with another TikToker. And here's what she has to say.
Sorry, I didn't know you owned him. He wasn't wearing a collar. Everyone in the situation was single and there was no overlap with anyone ever. I didn't answer her messages because I don't owe her anything. He's single. Arrest me.
She's really in her villain era. I don't know if I love it or not, but I don't know. It's kind of iconic because we're actually going to get into it. So a lot of people thought that Sophia here, the creator, she's in her villain era and wow, like that's such an unhinged thing to say. So let's get into their reactions.
Because I don't owe her anything. He's single. Arrest me.
I genuinely think that in the next 20 years, or honestly right now, sociologists are going to be studying the literal irreparable damage done by the overly therapized, I don't owe anyone anything ethos, because the way it has just destroyed perceptions of community and interpersonal bonds is mind-blowing.
And I don't think she's wrong. So this class is actually not as much inspired by the TikTok drama, but more so this video that kind of just encapsulates how it is true that this shift into the I don't owe anyone mentality that a lot of people have, it's really keeping us from living our best lives. And today's class is all about unpacking that. But before we get into that, let's get into the comments. Someone said,
I don't owe anyone anything is healing when said to a people pleaser that is putting themselves in bad situations like I was. But it can be very bad when taken to the extreme. People should respect people.
And someone else said,
Yep, agreed. My therapist had to slowly explain that I can be mad and hate people after I told her how exhausting boundaries are. LOL.
and then someone said,
Boundaries are so hard to maintain, but I'm sure with time they become more easy, to be honest.
and somebody else said,
The healthier version of that is I owe it to myself to take care of me first, in relation to people pleasing.
and that's why I have beef with no nuance Nellies, okay? Because the I don't owe anyone anything mentality, when you are a people pleaser with zero boundaries, like it's life changing. It is so life changing to find out that you can say no to things, that you can decline, that you can advocate for yourself. Like if you're a people pleaser, like it is so healing to hear like you don't owe them that, okay? But then when you don't practice it with nuance, it kind of turns into this, I don't know, just very callous way of living that a lot of people have been holding up as the gold standard because we just don't want to be, number one, held accountable for our actions, and number two, we just don't want to put in the extra little effort of connecting with others. And I think it's also interesting how this video sparked all this discourse on the you don't owe anyone anything mindset because it seems like it's just so prevalent nowadays. And I get it because we are in a time when we are enjoying expanded access to professional therapy. Like a lot of people have started therapizing their interpersonal relationships. Like people have started saying you don't owe anyone anything when they don't want to go out of their way to do the right thing, to do the kind thing. And okay, we're not passing judgment on Sophia Sophia over here because apparently she's not the bad guy here, okay? So like this whole TikTok beef, she's not the bad guy, okay? The boyfriend is. But I mean, I feel like we've already done an episode on this. Like whenever there's like a situation where it's like, oh, she's trying to steal my boyfriend or she stole my boyfriend. Like if he was stealable in the first place, let her have him, okay? So someone said, imagine lying to your millions of followers so they can go hate on an innocent girl just because she went out with your ex. Sophia's better than her because she would like not put up with that. Someone said,
I need y'all to realize no one's hating on Hallie. The video is about how ironic it is that a simple statement had the whole internet cussing out a random woman. The whole situation is screaming misogyny.
and someone said,
To be honest, I'd be more inclined to be on her side, meaning Hallie's side, if she didn't take him back. I'm kind of like, so wait, let me get this straight. We are all supposed to hate Sophia, who is not your friend, for going out with your ex, all the while you ultimately take him back and forgive him. Reed, the boyfriend, owed her loyalty, not Sophia. So why are we always blaming women in these situations? I can't.
and then someone else said,
Honestly, Hallie took him back and now the internet bullies Sophia for being a ginger. Drama aside, this screams of misogyny.
I feel like there's just like so many layers upon layers upon layers to this situation. Like, it's crazy. Like, really, real life is art. Okay, this is performance art. Like, we are seeing in real time, like, the issues that a lot of women deal with. So, like, unfortunately, for the people who are enacting this art in real life, like, you know, their life gets picked apart in the process. But, like, I don't know, like, there's just something about it. Like, seeing how every time a man disrespects a woman, the woman who was disrespected or perceived that she was disrespected goes after the other woman. When, like, why do we never place blame on the man? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? Like I said, every time we look at these, like, she stole my boyfriend kind of drama, beef, it's always the man that's the problem, okay? Like, the common denominator is always the man who can be stolen, okay? So anyway, back to the you don't owe anyone mentality. People are really starting to pick up on how pervasive and harmful this mentality is nowadays. Listen to this.
The first person who picked up their phone and tweeted, "You don't owe anybody anything, not even your kindness and respect," is literally going to hell for the damage that they've done on the psyche of chronically online people right now. It is like so bizarre when you think about the snowball effect that tweet has had, that the way it's affected people's mentalities on friendship and kindness of strangers and family relationships, like literally so much. Like, I personally believe that we do owe strangers kindness. We owe everybody our kindness and respect unless they've done something to prove that they don't deserve it. And I feel like that's kindergarten logic. I feel like that's what you're taught when you're little. You know, be nice to everybody, and you can be mean to people who are mean to you. You can be mean back. Like, that's normal.
So there's a lot to unpack there, and we're gonna get into all the nuances of kindness and kindness as a woman specifically, because I feel like in a world where there is a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of sadness, somehow it falls on our shoulders as women to be the ones to spread the kindness, to put up with the unkindness. And we're gonna get into it, okay? There's like a lot of layers to today's class. But the overall goal of today's class is to help undo the harm of the no nuance Nelly version of you don't owe anyone anything mentality. Because in my humble, spoiled girly opinion, actually, yes, we do owe people something. Not everything, but something. And we're doing that by looking into the history of kindness and its evolution into something reserved for women and children. And because it was reserved and delegated to women and children, it was seen as inferior and as a weakness. And we are also going to look into the rise of male egoism, which is perceived as superior and therefore the standard, and how this shift has created our very pessimistic view of human kindness, so much so that people no longer bother with being kind anymore. And we are all the worse for it. And what's worse is that all in the name of equality, women are now adopting this male egoist view that the foundation of human morality is self-interest, not kindness, as we just saw in that TikTok video. But that's not equality. Like, sinking to their level of being unkind, that's not equality. Okay, there's nothing superior about being unkind. And as we will learn in today's class, for centuries, philosophers have deemed unkind individuals as not true humans and simply as mere brutes. So no, being unkind is not a flex. Lacking empathy is not a flex. You're not superior for lacking something so fundamental to the human experience. Anyway, today's class is heavily informed by this book on kindness by Adam Phillips and Barbara Taylor. It's a short but profound exploration of the history, psychology, and philosophy of kindness. And the authors, they trace the concept of kindness from its origins in ancient philosophy through religious teachings to its modern day interpretations. And I wanted to get into the themes surrounding kindness and how we got from having such an optimistic view of kindness and into this evolution into the more common I don't owe anyone anything mentality. So let's get into the history of kindness. Throughout history, kindness has often been viewed as the defining characteristic of what it means to be truly human. So ancient philosophers across various cultures, they really emphasize the centrality of kindness to human nature. They argued that without it, a person was reduced to a little more than a brute, driven by base instincts rather than higher moral virtues. And this belief positioned kindness not merely as a personal virtue, but as the essence of a civilized society, differentiating humans from animals. And many ancient philosophers believed that human beings were not inherently solitary, but rather social creatures whose survival depended on the ability to live together in communities. And central to this idea was kindness. It was an essential trait that allowed humans to form bonds, support one another, and create the moral fabric of society. Without kindness, it was thought that humans would be driven by self-interest, greed, and aggression, leading to chaos and destruction. Aristotle, for instance, emphasized the role of philia, friendship or love, as a cornerstone of human relationships, which could only be fostered through kindness and goodwill towards others. And he argued that the highest good for human beings was the pursuit of eudaimonia, which is flourishing or happiness, which could only be achieved within a community of virtuous individuals. And in this sense, kindness wasn't just a soft or a sentimental trait, a feminine trait. It was essential for creating the conditions in which humans could thrive and flourish. Marcus Aurelius, Stoic daddy, the Roman philosopher emperor, is another key figure who championed kindness as central to human nature. Despite his immense power, Aurelius believed that true strength lay in showing compassion and goodwill to others. In his meditations, he wrote, "Kindness is mankind's greatest delight," reflecting his conviction that kindness is the highest virtue that a person can cultivate. And according to Aurelius, kindness was not only beneficial to others, but it was also a source of fulfillment and joy to the person who practiced it. Aurelius further emphasized that humans were naturally inclined to kindness and that this inclination is what set them apart from animals, or brutes, as he sometimes referred to them. He suggested that to act without kindness was to abandon one's humanity. In one of his writings, he stated that a man's true delight is to do the things he was made for, and he was made to show goodwill to his kind. And this just highlights Aurelius's belief that kindness was not an optional trait, but a fundamental aspect to human nature, because it was intertwined with the purpose of life itself. And this kind of gets us into it gets us into kindness as a civilizing force. In many ancient texts, kindness is described as a civilizing force that tempers human nature. Confucius, the Chinese philosopher, similarly emphasized the importance of ren, or benevolence or kindness, as the foundational virtue that defines humanity. He also argued that without kindness, individuals would be unable to develop the trust and respect needed for society to function harmoniously. For Confucius, a society built on kindness was a just society, one where individuals cared for one another, worked together for the common good, and upheld the moral order. And in Christian philosophy, kindness or charity was one of the three theological virtues alongside faith and hope. Kindness was seen as the highest expression of love and the trait that most closely connected humans with each other. And while we may no longer talk about brutes in the way ancient philosophers did, their views on kindness remain relevant in today's world, because this belief that kindness is essential to human nature, especially in a time when individualism and self-interest is like rampant. And we see it now in modern society with all our complexities and our technological advancements. Like, we still rely on the same foundational principles of kindness, compassion, and empathy to foster connections and create a sense of community. Because without kindness, relationships deteriorate deteriorate, trust erodes, and it just makes it difficult for society to function effectively. Like, imagine if everyone had this vibe, had this belief system, I don't owe anyone anything. Like, imagine if everyone around you was like that. It's a miserable existence, okay? And I admit that I rely on people's kindness every damn day of my life, okay? Like, a lot of us do. Actually, most of us do, okay? And it's so much easier to do that when you also practice kindness yourself, because then you attract kind people into your life. And I feel like we haven't talked about this in a while, servant mindset, because I don't know, it just hasn't come up. But if you're an OG spoiled girly, like, we have been on servant mindset like this whole time. And servant mindset is basically being a servant to the people around you, like going above and beyond to be of service to them. And obviously, we're not doormats, so we still have these boundaries. We are only in our servant mindset for the people who are also in their servant mindset with us, okay? Like, we don't do one-way relationships here. So when you are in your servant mindset, it is so much easier to attract people who are also in their servant mindset. And it becomes much easier to rely and depend on the kindness of others when those others know that they can rely and depend on your kindness as well. Obviously, with nuance, no nuance Nelly. But when you practice servant mindset in your daily life, like, there's no going back. So let me know in the comments if you have been living in your servant mindset or you just started doing it. Like, how has it improved your life? I want to know, okay? So anyway, to further prove my case that kindness is not only good for us and that it helps us experience the full range of humanness, let's talk about the psychology of kindness. We all know how amazing it feels like when we experience kindness from someone, like when someone's nice to us, when someone's kind to us, like they open our door, they do like extra things for us, like they go the extra mile. And also, it feels really good to do those same things for other people. Like, if you have experienced that, it's like, I feel like I'm meant to be doing this all day, every day, okay? But here's the thing, like, even though we crave kindness, like whether it's giving or receiving it, somewhere along the way, society started acting like being kind was a weakness, okay? And we're gonna get into how we got to that point where from way back when, like from the ancient philosophers' time, like we were all about kindness as an innate human trait, like we were built to be kind, like because our survival as a species depended on kindness. How did we get into making kindness like this weak, inferior thing, okay? And spoiler alert is because kindness was feminized, it was delegated to women, and therefore, if it was delegated to women, it was seen as inferior. And now we got to this point where kindness is no longer a virtue. It is now seen as a weakness. It's now, I don't owe anyone anything, and look what the word looks like. Okay, so let's get back to the beginning. First, kindness is not just something we randomly decided was cool one day, okay? On top of the ancient philosophers saying that it's innate to our humanness, it is actually also in our DNA. Psychologists say that we have an actual need for kindness. It's wired into our brains to be both givers and receivers of kindness, and this need goes way back when humans first started living in communities. Back then, we had to rely on each other for survival, and kindness was the way we built trust and formed bonds. Fast forward to today, while we might not need kindness to hunt or gather food, we still need it to feel connected to others. Okay, whenever someone does something nice to you, it instantly lifts your mood. Like you're having a bad day and someone's just like random act of kindness, like lifts your spirits. Like there's just something about it. That's because our brains are programmed to respond positively to kindness. It literally releases feel-good chemicals like oxytocin and dopamine. It's like a natural high, and the best part is that it works both ways. You also get that feel good rush of neurotransmitters whenever you perform kindness towards others. Okay, so like whether you're giving or receiving kindness, it's a win-win situation for your brain. Like we are literally rewarded by our bodies to be kind and be kind too. So now that we know that like kindness is amazing, it's innate, like it's built into us, we are hardwired to give and receive kindness. Why is it that we are now living in a society where a lot of us, we are sometimes, most of the times, afraid to show kindness? Like, why is it that in today's world, being kind is seen as a sign of weakness or even being naive? And it all comes to vulnerability. Because when we're kind, we are opening ourselves to the possibility of being rejected or taken advantage of. And it's literally like putting our hearts on display, like, take it out here, hold my heart, like it's in your hands, whether you crush it or you take care of it, you know, like it's a lot. So in a world that often praises people for being tough and self-sufficient and independent, being an individual, showing that level of vulnerability can be really scary. And we worry that people will think that we're being too soft, or that we'll end up getting hurt, or that our kindness wouldn't be reciprocated. And as we talked about in a past class about servant mindset, you always, but for the most part, you try to be in your servant mindset first. And if they reciprocate, then you can be friends. But if they don't reciprocate, at least you did your good deed, okay? Then move on. And that's kind of like the nuance with servant mindset, so that you don't get taken advantage of, but you also still are open-hearted to forming new relationships with people. So try to be in your servant mindset first. And if they're skeptical about that, if they like doubt you, if you're a good person because you're being a servant to them, then that means like they're not your people. Like if you think that someone being nice to you is suspicious, obviously you're not going to go over the top, but just like, I don't know, like I've been in these situations where like I was in my servant mindset first and like it wasn't reciprocated, and I'm like, that's information, you know, that's like information gathering. Like, okay, you're not my people, and that's okay. But honestly, it has never done me wrong. Like making girlfriends is so much easier when you're in a servant mindset, because I don't know, it just makes the process really quick to weed out like people who will not be your friend, okay? And same things with like family members or whatever. Like if you're not in your servant mindset, like you don't need constant access to me, you know? Anyway, so I feel like that kind of fixes the issue of feeling vulnerability whenever you are kind to others, whenever you're in your servant mindset to others. And also like another big reason why people hold back on kindness is this fear of being taken advantage of, because it's true, like we have all been in situations where we've done something nice for someone, kind for someone, we went out of our way to do something good for them, and it felt like they took us for granted or they used it against us. Like no good deed goes unpunished, okay? I feel like that's kind of pessimistic, but like no good deed goes unpunished, especially if you perform that good deed on other people who like don't deserve it, who are preying on your downfall, okay? So there's definitely a lot of nuance to this. So it does take a lot of discernment to be in your servant mindset and still be protected, still honor your boundaries, and still have like a good experience of life, okay? Because like no one wants to be taken advantage of, no one wants to be taken for granted, no one wants to be unappreciated, like you went out of your way to do something, okay? But here's the thing, like while it's totally okay to set boundaries, we shouldn't let the fear of being taken advantage of all these bad things to get in the way of us living our best life. Because let me tell you, like a life led with kindness, with servant mindset is one of the best lives you can live. And we're gonna get into why in a little bit. And one of the things that gets in the way of people practicing kindness as a way of living is this vibe that kindness is just narcissism in disguise. So in the book on kindness, the writers say that the most long-standing suspicion about kindness is that it is just narcissism in disguise. We are kind because it makes us feel good about ourselves. Kindly people are self-approbation junkies. But in the 1730s, Francis Hutcheson disagreed with this. He wrote, "If this is self-love, be it so. Nothing can be better than this self-love, nothing more generous." And in this context, kindness is framed as self-love because when you are kind to others, it is a reflection of how much you love yourself. Like you love yourself enough to be kind to others. And Hutcheson basically captures the vibe of the times when people are so suspicious of kindness, and kind people, specifically women, okay? Because prior to the late 20th century, when people wrote human beings, they meant men. He meant everyone. Masculinity was the human template, with women disappearing into the male universal. Yet ironically, one of the key outcomes of the egoism kindness quarrel was to feminize kindness, divesting it from humanity as a whole while leaving a residue of womanly kindness, notably maternal solicitude. In recent times, kindness has been largely a feminine prerogative, with men consigned to egoism. As a recap, like somewhere in history, kindness was delegated to women and was therefore feminized and was therefore made to be inferior, and men to be considered superior had to be different. So they embraced this philosophy of egoism, and egoism is basically perceiving the root of human morality as self-centeredness and self-interest, while the mentality that was delegated to women was that human morality was based on kindness. So basically, women, we were assigned this perception that human morality is based on kindness, and men, they were assigned this perception that human morality was based on self-interest. And it kind of shows in how young girls and young women and women in general are programmed to be nice, be sweet, help others. Like, you know the drill? Like, it's wild that the socialization of young girls, young women, women in general, is to be told to be nice, be sweet, be highly agreeable, help others, always share. Like, share your toys, share your paints, share your school supplies, share your bodies. Okay, like I'm telling you, there's like so many layers to this. So this rise of kindness as a womanly thing. They called it womanly kindness. It's just this very insidious way of making women inferior, and the ramifications are seen in today's society, okay? So caring, nurturing, putting others first, like all that was feminized and all that was seen as a weakness. And women were then delegated this full responsibility of keeping kindness alive, which means we were designated this responsibility to keep humanity alive. Very interesting that kindness has become a feminine trait, while men, on the other hand, were assigned egoism, which is basically just looking out for themselves and themselves only primarily. And we got stuck with the kindness card while men got a hall pass, okay? But here's the thing, like kindness shouldn't just be a woman thing. It shouldn't be a girl thing, okay? The whole idea that kindness is somehow softer or weaker or more feminine or more inferior is just a flawed narrative. And the part where it says men consigned to egoism is really profound because we can see how it ties into their so-called loneliness epidemic. It's literally just the end result of centuries of feminizing kindness and consequently devaluing kindness. So when you have a population of people who are proudly egoist, proudly disavowing kindness, proudly disavowing empathy, it's not surprising that they're having a kindness shortage, a friendship shortage, a relationship shortage, okay? It's almost like kindness is central to the full human experience. So all these people saying that they're too cool for kindness, they're not experiencing the full human experience, okay? They're not experiencing friendships, they're not experiencing relationships, they're not experiencing human contact. No wonder why, like, it's literally like F around and find out era. Like, when you devalue kindness, you don't go through the full human experience. It's almost like kindness is central to the full human experience. And also, one vestige of this whole kindness is a woman's thing vibe is that once again, women are looked at as the solution to this so-called loneliness epidemic, this crisis of friendships and relationships and human contact that these people who have for centuries proudly disavowed kindness and empathy. Like, no, like that's not our problem, okay? Like, once again, women are being called to solve problems for people that are self-inflicted, okay? It's not our job to be quote unquote kind to people, to provide a service to people who don't want to help themselves, okay? To people who think that they're too cool for kindness, for empathy, for a two-way reciprocal relationship, okay? And also, like when you think about it, like serving as a crutch for people who refuse to do the work to make themselves viable friends, partners, it's simply not the kind thing to do, okay? That's enabling behavior. Like, that's just as bad as the vice itself. And the point here isn't that women are magically kinder than men. Like, no. Women are not magically kinder than men. Women are not magically like more nurturing and caring than men. It's just that we are socialized to be that way, okay? We are socialized to be kinder than them. We're socialized to be more agreeable, more accommodating, more thoughtful, more willing to share our resources, our thoughts, our vibes, our bodies, okay? Women's superior sympathy and compassion, however, suffered no diminution, becoming rather an idée fixe of the age. A cult of feminine kindness arose, underpinned by the Victorian ideal known as the angel in the house. Consigned to a private domestic existence, women became a repository of all those other regarding emotions inappropriate to the competitive hurly-burly of male society. Safely sequestered in the female heart, far from boardrooms and battlefields, kindness became as crucial to women as unblemished schmexual reputation and as socially irrelevant. Now, before you get any ideas, okay, the solution isn't for women to be less kind, okay? The solution is to elevate the perception of kindness so that more people would get on our level, because as it turns out, kindness is crucial to our human experience. Listen to this. If kindness previously had to be legitimized by a god or by gods or located in women and children, it is because it has had to be delegated, and it has had to be delegated and sanctioned and sacralized and idealized and sentimentalized because it comes from a part of ourselves that we are most disturbed by, the part that knows how much assurance and genuine reassurance is required to sustain our sense of viability. Kindness had to be delegated over the years because it was necessary, okay? We couldn't do without kindness, but kindness was getting in the way of setting up these hierarchical patriarchal structures. For these structures to exist, the subjugation of certain people required a lack of kindness, and in this case, the subjugation of women required a lack of kindness. But we still need kindness as a society, so the perfect solution was to make kindness a woman's thing, an inferior thing, okay? And all unkind behavior had to be elevated and celebrated and normalized, okay?
Oh, men are more logical because they lack empathy. Oh, men are more logical. Like, empathy is a woman's thing anything. Empathy clouds your judgment. That's why men are so logical.
No, like, lack of empathy is not a flex. Lack of kindness is not a flex, okay? Anomalous programming is not a flex, okay? And honestly, women are starting to wake up. After World War II, women who had long touted self-forgetfulness and dedication to others as a female duty began to contemplate the benefits of equality instead. Perhaps women were not bound to care for others more than themselves. Poor peopling, as Florence Nightingale dubbed women's philanthropic labors in slum neighborhoods, began to fall from fashion, and many welcomed its passing, looking to trade unions and government to eradicate poverty rather than softening it. By the early 20th century, good works had lost their moral glow. Now, here is where we see women waking up to the scam of being kind when others are not. Now, some women too, especially in the corporate world, are insisting on their right to be as ruthlessly competitive as men. In a dog-eat-dog world, even equality has a dark side. So here's my take that nobody asked for. What if women are now disavowing kindness because for so long it has been pushed on us, mandated on us by men? But to be unkind as a woman is like to be a man asterisk, okay? An asterisk is malicious below bare minimum low effort man. To be unkind as a woman is to be how men who follow the male egoist view perceive themselves to be. So for women, it's actually hustling backwards to be unkind because unkind people are not true humans and are simply brutes as per Jean-Jacques Rousseau, okay? And also, we don't need to mandate kindness, okay? We just have to be. We just have to live and breathe it. We have to give and receive it, okay? That's it. Long story short, it is not true that you don't owe anyone anything. You owe some people something. And most of all, you owe it to yourself to owe others something, okay? Because if you're not practicing kindness towards others, you are missing out on the full experience of your humanity. Look at all the people who are proud of their unkind behavior, who are proud of their lack of empathy, who are proud that they are so superior because they lack all these things that make people weak, okay? They're in crisis, okay? Just because kindness has been feminized and delegated to women, it's not revolutionary to be unkind. That's called giving up, okay? What's true revolution is to channel your kindness to more deserving recipients, okay? Share your kindness with people who share their kindness with you. Share your kindness to the women and children around you. And most of all, don't mistake kindness for enabling negative behavior. That is not your task. That's all I have for you today. I just want to let you know that you have so much inherent worth and value in a world that is hell-bent on devaluing you. Now get that bag, bestie. Also, bestie, wake up.